The props of Star Trek have always been extremely creative and iconic looking. From the original series communicators all the way to the TriCom badges in Discovery, it's clear that the crew behind Trek have cared a great deal about making unique props that help to make the universe feel real. Of course, there are the Star Trek devices that we all know and love, like tricorders, phasers, comm badges, and more, but there are also many more obscure items that are just as interesting. Some serve special functions that don't often get brought up, others just have cool backstories. Often, these items can seem totally insignificant until you learn the story behind them. Here, we're going to count down some of the most important ones that you've probably never noticed, and give some history on where they came from and why they're so special to Star Trek. I'm Sean Ferrick for TrekCulture, and here are 10 background Star Trek items more important than you think. Number 10. Warfs Trophy. Dax and Worf kept a number of personal items in their shared quarters aboard Deep Space Nine. One item Worf kept was a trophy in the shape of the emblem of the Klingon Empire, which you may not remember held a deep significance for him. The trophy seen in DS9 episodes like Resurrection was actually won by Worf at a Bat'leth competition on Forcas 3 in the Next Generation episode Parallels. After returning to the Enterprise in Parallels, Worf began shifting through various alternate universes, and one of the first reasons he noticed was because his trophy inexplicably changed from a first place champion standing trophy to a less impressive 9th place one. Worf apparently kept his trophy with him at his new job on the station as a reminder both of his victory at the tournament and his many adventures on the Enterprise D. Number 9. Dedication Plaques. You may be surprised to learn that dozens of the real-life people who worked on Star Trek have characters in the fictional universe named after them. Every Starfleet ship has a dedication plaque in its interior which usually details the ship's name, class, registry, and important Starfleet personnel who helped design and launch it. It's difficult to notice, but many of the people listed on the plaques had the names of prominent members of the Trek production crew, including Brannon Braga, Rick Berman, Matt Jeffries, and Denise Okuda. Gene Roddenberry also frequently appeared, listed as Starfleet Chief of Staff. The dedication plaques were hardly ever visible, and when they were, like the USS Franklin's plaque in Star Trek Beyond, the production crew's names were usually not present. Still, it's fun to imagine that Matt Jeffries designed Federation starships both in real life and in the Trek universe. Number 8. Programmable Matter. The Starship Discovery received a ton of advanced upgrades after travelling into the 32nd century. One new technology they were introduced to was Programmable Matter. Programmable Matter was made up of millions of tiny nanomolecules which could be programmed to assume any shape. When it was introduced, this tech was used to create flexible interfaces and beautiful artwork, but we didn't know just how important it would prove to be. When the Discovery crew learned that the creators of the DMA, Species 10C, lived outside of our galaxy, they realised that they would need to devise a way to pass the galactic barrier. The only problem was that the galactic barrier was composed of deadly negative energy that would prove fatal to the ship. The Discovery crew, as well as Booker and Tarka, realised that they could repel the negative energy using constantly adapting programmable antimatter, a rare version of programmable matter with opposite charge. Since the concentration of dark energy was higher than expected, Discovery also had to ride in a spatial cell bubble, but it's likely that even that would have been too deadly were it not for programmable antimatter shields. Number 7. Garth's Rehabilitation Chair. In the original series episode, Whom Gods Destroy, we met Garth of Izar, a former famed Starfleet captain turned genocidal madman. We saw in that episode that, as part of his mental health treatment, Garth was forced to use a rehabilitation chair. This rehabilitation chair raised so many ethical questions. It appeared to have the ability to numb violent tendencies, completely pacifying those who used it. Garth later transformed his rehabilitation chair into a torture device, but its intended purpose also seems sinister. It's not hard to imagine how a tyrannical government could use this pacifying tech to control populations and prevent them from rebelling. The galaxy is lucky that the Federation chose to use this tech only for rehabilitation, because they could easily turn it against their citizens to control them. In fact, this is only one example of many devices in Star Trek that could potentially be used in much more nefarious ways, including transporters, holodecks, and many more. Number 6. Kerner House's Katan probe. At some point in this list, we obviously had to mention Kerner House's collection, one of the largest treasure troves of Easter eggs in Trek. The collection, seen in the Lower Decks episode Katan, His Eyes Open, included several really interesting items that we've discussed in other videos, but one in particular carries with it a lot of implications. Aboard his ship, he held a Katan probe, just like the one that forced Captain Picard to live an entire lifetime in a simulation of the long-lost Katan society in the Next Generation episode The Inner Light. The fact that Howes had a probe like this in his collection means that he either somehow stole the original probe from Starfleet, or the Katan launched more than one probe, one of which was encountered by Colonel Howes, who would have been subjected to the same decades-long life-changing experience that Picard was. The possibility is definitely interesting to think about. Number 5. Kelvin Pods. When the Enterprise's saucer section was about to crash into the planet Altamede in Star Trek Beyond, Kirk ordered all crew to evacuate aboard what he called Kelvin Pods. They appeared to be very similar to standard Starfleet escape pods that we've seen in Trek many times, First Contact for example, but their name does actually hint at a deeper history. The USS Kelvin, Kirk's dad's ship from the beginning of the 2009 film, was attacked by the Narada, and all crew were forced to evacuate. Apparently the ship had no escape pods because we saw everyone leaving the ship aboard shuttles instead. Escape pods work better because they are scattered all around a ship, allowing for less crowded space during an evacuation, and they aren't filled with extra unnecessary equipment, like shuttles. While we did see escape pods in Star Trek Enterprise, which was prior to the timeline splitting, it can be reasonably assumed that the Kelvin pods were invented as a response to the disaster of the USS Kelvin. The exact differences between the two are rather unclear. Maybe escape pods fell out of use because they took up so much space and were rarely used, so when Starfleet suddenly decided to integrate them again, after the Kelvin's destruction, they needed a thinner, more compact design, which was exactly what we saw in Beyond. Number 4. Hovercars. Although they're not seen very often, hovercars have been a part of Trek since the animated series episode Maud's Passion, when they could be seen in a parking lot on the planet Motherlode. Since then, they've also popped up in Into Darkness, the Next Generation episode All Good Things, and the Picard episode Remembrance. They were also mentioned when Voyager ran into a 1936 Ford truck in the 37s, and Harry Kim asked, "So, this is an early hovercar?" Many people assume that Star Trek's transporter technology completely eliminated the demand for personal vehicles, but seeing these hovercars is important because they disprove that. People will still have the desire to get from point A to point B themselves. Driving a hovercar when you have the power to instantly teleport anywhere on Earth may seem weird, but for some people, the journey is more important than the destination. Given that hovercars do not need roads to function, we can also assume that many of Earth's roads have been removed by the 23rd century, freeing up much more space and leading to more condensed communities. That's all just speculation though, as many roads still remained. Number 3. The no smoking sign. It's well known that smoking and tobacco addiction are largely relics of the past in Star Trek. We have seen characters light an occasional cigarette, for example Guinan smoked one while playing through the Dixon Hill period Peace Hollow novel in the Next Generation episode Clues. There were also characters like Les Buenamigo and Cristobal Rios who would smoke cigars recreationally, and others who would inhale other alien drugs, but cigarette addiction seems practically unheard of beyond the 21st century. In the Voyager episode Ex Post Facto, Tom Paris saw someone smoking and claimed, "Smoking is a bad habit. My species gave it up centuries ago when we finally got it into our heads that it was killing us." Despite this, you can actually see a no smoking sign on the wall of the simulator bridge in Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan. The sign reads, "No smoking at any time on the bridge," and originally also appeared on the Enterprise's bridge before Gene Roddenberry requested to have it removed, saying that smoking would not be a thing in the future he created. However, the simulator bridge kept it, and the sign remained visible in the final cut of the Kobayashi Maru test scene. Despite Roddenberry's wishes, the fact that this sign was placed in the simulator room implies that smoking was still fairly common in the 23rd century. Number 2. Ciscos Baseball. Everyone knows that Ben Sisko kept a baseball on his desk, but if you haven't rewatched the first season of Deep Space Nine recently, you may have forgotten why that ball was so important. Ben and his son Jake were huge baseball fans. We knew this since the first episode. They were such huge fans that, when an alien shapeshifter chose to visit the station to learn about the imaginations of humans in the episode If Wishes Were Horses, it chose to assume the form of Buck Buckeye, a fictional, famous baseball player from the 21st century. The entire crew was super confused when a 21st century baseball player and several other ridiculous characters appeared on the station, but Buck later revealed his identity and tossed Sisko a baseball as a memento. Sisko held onto that ball for the rest of the series. His baseball went on to be really significant to the plot. After Gul Dukat seized control of Deep Space Nine in the episode Call to Arms, he found Sisko's baseball and realised that Sisko left the ball there as a subtle reminder that he would be back to retrieve it. Number 1. Nogs' Tooth Sharpener. When Nog left Deep Space Nine to attend Starfleet Academy in the episode Little Green Men, he auctioned off his old Ferengi tooth sharpener to Worf, who had never seen a device like it and was extremely impressed. We saw in the Lower Decks episode, Wage Douche, that Klingons, like Ferengi, practiced tooth sharpening. However, the Klingon near the beginning of that episode was using a simple file to chisel down his teeth. Worf was probably used to painstakingly filing his teeth to get that perfect spiky look, and when Nog introduced him to a device that could easily form his teeth to the perfect spike, he was understandably excited. This tooth sharpener became extremely important to Worf. It was stolen from his quarters in the episode Bar Association, which really upset him and prompted him to request to live on the Defiant instead. That's everything for our list today, folks. Thank you so much for watching along, and we hope you found it interesting. Please make sure you check out the original article that this is based on, that was written by Marcia Fry, and that is over on whatculture.com. Please make sure you're following us on the various socials. If you just type in @TrekCulture, you will probably find us. You are awesome, you are wonderful. Until I see you again, make sure that you live long and prosper, and I will chat to you soon. Thanks very much. Bye.